Thanks for coming out on a... Sure, you want to do that? I'll give you before. Thanks for all you for turning out tonight. It's an inclement weather, but it's the beginning of winter, so we're used to that here. We'll begin as usual, especially tonight, being a Veterans Day program with the Pledge of Allegiance. So I'll ask you to please stand. We got two flags, front and back. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks. Have a seat. Okay. Tonight, as I mentioned, we've got a Veterans Day program. Our speaker is Greg Kinal, who's a long-time, 52-year social studies teacher at Pembroke High School, still teaching, and he's going to talk to us about Civil War veterans, not Civil War, excuse me, all the wars from the Revolution through the present. But before we begin, I'm going to ask Nan if she'd step forward and just give us an update on one of our members who's had some health issues.
Some of you have been asking about Kathy Etzel. She had a second hip replacement in early November. Her first one came dislocated 3 times, so they put a new one in. She's at St. Anne's. I talked to her tonight. She's hoping very much to be home on Saturday when her daughter comes in. So she appreciates the contact she's had from you and appreciates the people that have been asking about her. And she just said to me, tomorrow, Veterans Day, would have been Chet's 79th birthday.
Oh.
Yeah.
Chet just passed away as well, you know. Okay, without further discussions, let's give a big hand, please, for Greg Kinal.
I noticed some kind of a Zumba class next door. Be aware the only speakers we have tonight are in that projector. So when I have a number of YouTubes I'm going to play for you, please adjust your hearing so that you can hear as best you can or move up towards the front. That's the best I got. Okay, a few things. For those of you that are technologically into stuff, I can make this bigger, but then I lose control of my YouTubes. So it's not that I don't know what I'm doing. I have to do it this way so I have control. I'm not going to show you all the YouTubes. We'll be here till next Tuesday, and I don't want to do that. The styles of fighting in all of the wars that you're going to see is much different. For example, when I get into the Civil War, you had an army here and an army here. You looked at the whites of their eyes and you shot people, and the amount of death was horrendous, 11,000, and then they walked away to fight again. Now, let's see what you know. David Bellavia? Yeah. Who's that? Congressional Medal of Honor winner, yes. He wrote a book called House to House in Iraq. So the fighting in the Middle East was a house to house and you're ducking and shooting. Much different than Gettysburg. Understand? So you're going to see different methods of fighting. And before I begin, I have just a few vignettes that I want to share with you. All my uncles and my father were in World War II. And all of them great veterans. Young lady, I'll be all over the place.
That's okay. This is more space for you to move.
So my uncle was a disabled vet. He lost his kidney to a Japanese grenade on Saipan during World War II. My only uncle to fight in the Pacific. So he was my favorite uncle, and you know, we got along just great. I loved him to death. And he wouldn't travel anywhere because of my aunt, my mother's sister. She didn't want to go anywhere. They lived in Tonawanda, and every once in a while they went to the pancake house, and that was the big deal. Well, she dies. So a couple months goes by, he calls me up and he says, Gregory, your aunt died. I said, I know, I was pallbearer. He says, I want to go someplace. I want to travel. Where do you want to go? I've never been to Washington. Well, this will be my 55th year taking the 8th grade to Washington. I'd invite anybody who wants to go with 110 8th graders. You're more than welcome. So, and I got to tell you, the first trip in 1972, I drove the bus. It was a converted 62 Chevy. It did not have seats. I used, embarrassingly, card table chairs. That wasn't very safe, so I'm waiting for an answer from you guys. So Uncle Dick, we decided we took our sons and we went to Washington. On the way down, we stopped at Gettysburg. And he is this tough guy, bitten by a Anopheles mosquito, had malaria, went through the war, flag went up every day, came down at dusk kind of guy. So we're walking in Gettysburg at the cemetery where Lincoln gave his Gettysburg address and the soldiers are buried and such. He's not with us. And so I said to his son, my cousin, I said, where's Uncle Dick? Well, he was at a tombstone. We couldn't see him. He was down on his hands and knees, 80 years old, bawling his eyes out because he couldn't grasp the idea that somebody fought for our country and is lying on a tombstone that says unknown. He couldn't buy it. Now we get to D.C., we get into the Air and Space Museum, and now I've been there a million times. He's reading every card for every single object that's there, and it's driving me absolutely crazy. I'm going, come on. And he's looking at this. Well, he looks up and he sees a Japanese Zero plane hanging from the ceiling, and the caption said that this plane we captured at Saipan, where he was. Well, he's going to tell us what's up. So he's telling the four of us, and he's describing what life was like and how the battle was going, and the Japanese were doing this and doing that and doing this, and he's going on and on about 20 minutes. I look him back, there's got to be about 40 people listening. And then at the end, they wanted to touch him. My dad died 2 years ago. Yeah, thank you for your service, and touching him. And I got to tell you, if anybody asked me out of 55 years what was the best trip I ever had to D.C., it had nothing to do with kids. It was taking Uncle Dick. Another vignette before I begin. Veteran Cemetery, yes, you know. Pembroke, very proud. You been? Okay, maybe something you don't know. My school has a Veterans Outreach Program. And my school, they take food. There's a homeless shelter for veterans in East Pembroke, New York. And they take clothing and food and such. And, and every couple weeks, during the spring and in the summer, the kids, there's about 60 kids, their teacher takes them into the cemetery and they check the flags. If you've been there, they have something called an avenue of flags. When you drive in, there's flags. There's got to be about, I'm going to guess 30 of them, 15 on both sides. So as you're driving in to a funeral or whatever you're doing, here's the American flags. But they're not just American flags. You don't buy these flags. These flags were donated from coffins of veterans to the cemetery. It's one of 3 places in the United States that allows this. So when you're driving past those flags, you've got to keep in your brain that this came off the coffin of one of our guys that died. Well, my good friend says to me, I want to introduce you to somebody. So he was 90 years old, and we met, and he was a World War II vet, and he said, he said, when I die, I wish there, and this is years ago, I would like to be buried in a veteran cemetery. And I said, well, holy cow, guess what? It's on the planning stages. They're going to have one in Pembroke. Really? So we put him in the car, we drove out to Pembroke, and it was field and trees, and not even where it is today. And he said, boy, that's where I want to go. So he dies, and he was Jewish. They buried him in a Jewish cemetery in Cheektowaga, and he made his son-in-law, my friend, promise him that when the cemetery is built to reinter him and take him there. Promised. So, okay. So life goes on, the cemetery's built, and my friend comes to me, we're both in the fire company together, and he says, I'm going to pay the money and get him disinterred. I said, okay. He said, I got to get permission from his daughter. So he calls the daughter. No chance. Not doing it. And he says, but this is his last wish. I don't care. That's it. He's buried. Goodbye. And that was it. So he says to me, he was heartbroken. And he says, but you know what I do have? I said, what do you got? I got his flag. And I said, well, you know what? Maybe part of him can be at that cemetery. So I got a hold of our teacher and all our students. All of them gathered there when I brought my friend with the flag. They had one of the girls from chorus sing the Star-Spangled Banner. The flag was presented, and the flag now proudly flies there. And that's the best we could do.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's
All right, here we go. So duty, honor, country. Douglas MacArthur. Come on, let's see what you know. I don't know what to call you. Are you Hilton? Are you Parma? Or New York? What are you?
New York. Parma, Greece.
I looked on the map for Parma. No go.
No.
So it had to be Hilton.
Hilton,
Okay.
Greece.
All right, so what did MacArthur say? Old soldiers never die. They just fade away. All right. Duty, honor, country. Those three hallowed words reverently dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, and what you will be. So we start off remembering our past heroes, fighting for independence. And this is going to be the Revolutionary War. Look it, there's no chance we were supposed to win this. None. We didn't have training. You didn't have muskets. You got farmers that were grabbing guns. And we were so outgunned. It's just amazing to me whenever I teach the Revolutionary War that we even came close to winning this. We weren't, the training was awful. Bad news. So we fought the war from 1775 to 1781. And no cameras back in those days. The camera isn't invented till 1839. But here you can see our patriots. And if they signed up, it was for a couple months at a time. And then they'd say to Washington, oh, adios, I'm going home. He's going, wait a minute, we're not done. Nothing like what we have today. And then the opening battle, if you will, was April 1775 at Lexington and Concord. And you got a bunch of farmers that have some muskets, and they show up on the green, and here comes 700 of the crack troops that the British Army has, the best in the world. And here's our farmers just standing there with guns. Wait till you see. Some of them are going to be shaking. I would too. And it didn't turn out so well for us. Watch the screen.
Yeah.
In the background, you should be able to hear the drums, I hope. British are on their way.
Make sure your flints are not uncocked. We don't want any accidents.
Now, I often think, what's going on in their stomachs? What is this? They got troubles. And there they are.
There present no obstacle, sir. Shall we pass them by?
We will not. Hold your fire. Keep right. Captain Parsons. Full front. Prepare to face bayonets. Fix your bayonets.
Yeah, let's make it worse. Now the bayonets come out.
Shoulder your bayonets. Hold your fire. Charge your bayonet.
Yeah, that would do it.
Advance and disarm them. Now, lads, you stand. Stand fast. Battalion will advance. Slow march.
Our guys could have easily ran away. Some did, some didn't.
Disperse, men. Don't fire. Get faster. Militia, retire. Get off the range.
Eight are gonna die, and the rest wounded. And so for the rest of the 6 years, it was like this, tough stuff. Alexander Hamilton wrote, "There's a certain enthusiasm and liberty that makes human nature rise above itself in acts of bravery and heroism." This whole war was bravery and heroism. And I got to tell you, thank God we had George Washington. He was able to pull this off. So, by the numbers, we had, now these are approximate, 217,000 servicemen in 6 years. The deaths were 4,400, and the last veteran, Daniel Bakeman, died at 109 years old in 1869. Now, I want you to focus a lot on the wounded. I know you're going to look at the battle deaths, we always do. Look at the wounded. They're coming home with PTSD. I don't care what war it is. What you see is what you see in battle, you bring home with you. This uncle of mine, Uncle Dick, in Tonawanda, when he went to sleep at night, when the war was over with, he'd get on the bed, face down, 1 foot on the floor. And my aunt's going, "Richard, what the hell are you doing?" He said, in case the Japanese come in Tonawanda. And he's got his foot on the floor. He's ready to go. And he did that for the first 10 years when he came home. Yeah. Well, disrespect from Great Britain. They got a score to settle. They didn't like that we beat them. So we're back in the War of 1812. They were impressing our sailors. Impressment means they'd stop an American ship, take our guys, and force them into the British Navy. Check this out. 6,000 they did. And we didn't have a Navy to begin with. And we got to do something about this. They're riling up the Indians against us and interfering with our trade. So the war is going to be fought along the Chesapeake. I do a program on the War of 1812, especially the western New York area, along the Niagara River. I don't know if you've ever taken a ride. Have you ridden on the Canadian side? The pretty side, not the American side. And you can see where the battles were fought. During this war, the home front was horrible. You know World War II, Rosie, right? Rosie the Riveter. They didn't have Rosie. Our people sold bullets to the British because they could pay cash. They sold shoes to the British. We had no home front. And every man for himself. That's how it went. They burned our Capitol building. They tried to burn the White House. It's made of marble. Good luck. They burned the contents, and they burned the Capitol building. They set off rockets and all that. And luckily, we had a great First Lady, Dolly Madison, who took a lot of our national treasures and got them out of the White House before they came to burn it. And then it boils down to Fort McHenry and our national anthem. A guy by the name of Armistead was in charge of our fort at Fort McHenry, and he ordered a flag built by Mary Pickersgill. And Mary Pickersgill was a maker, quote unquote, of colors, and she made a flag 30 by 42 feet, about the size of this room. 30 by 42 feet. And Armistead said, they knew the British were coming. And he said, we're going to raise that flag, and just so that they know who they're dealing with. Well, Francis Scott Key, I won't get into all that with you, but Francis Scott Key's taken prisoner on board one of the ships. He's a lawyer out of Georgetown. And as the fighting begins and the bombing takes place and all this and that, he's looking at that flagpole. He doesn't want to see a white flag. So throughout the night, there's a small little, what they called a weather flag, a storm flag. And the storm flag was up, and he saw it, and he was filled with all kinds of patriotism. My fort didn't surrender. And then dawn came, and he's holding his breath. And please, God, don't let the white flag go up. And instead, the storm flag came down, and this 30 by 42 foot flag went up. And he's talking about the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, and he was an amateur poet, and he wrote down those words. And his brother-in-law was a musician, and when he got back to the Star Hotel in Baltimore, he wrote them all down, gave it to his brother-in-law, and every time you sing the national anthem, it's an English drinking song. So there we go, folks. Yeah. So throughout the war, along the Buffalo area, Fort Erie, yes, you know. If you gamble, you know. But Fort Erie the fort is still there, and we occupied it for a bunch of months. And the problem was that we couldn't hold on to it, and a lot of our guys got killed. And finally, we thought, you know what? The whole object was to take Canada, and we found out we're not going to do that. So we abandoned the fort, came home across the Niagara River. Okay, it's now 1987. They're putting in a road near the fort, and they uncover 28 skeletal remains of our guys. And they could tell they're our guys by the buttons that were on the uniforms. So they said to the federal government, Ronald Reagan was president, what do you want to do here? They're MIAs. You're bringing them home. So we got 28 hearses. They crossed the Peace Bridge. The Canadians were waiting for us in identical coffins. They put the 28 remains, turned around, and with the fife and drums, bagpipes playing, across the Peace Bridge they went, stopped all traffic, and they went to the closest military cemetery there was at that time. Anybody want to guess?
Arlington?
Bath, New York. If you've never been to Bath, it's probably one of the best. Beautiful rolling hills, and they're buried there today, and it's really cool. So we get involved in the War of 1812. This is Andrew Jackson at the last battle, the Battle of New Orleans. We almost lost nobody, and the British lost a lot. They couldn't handle the. Can you imagine fighting in a wool uniform in New Orleans? You know, it didn't go so well. And don't give up the ship. We had Commodore Perry. And by the numbers, I don't know how they got that exact, but anyway, 286,000. We lost 2,200, and the wounded were 4,000. The last veteran died in 1905 at 105. That's remarkable because the average lifespan was about 36 years. That was remarkable.
He's young, but he went.
Now, land. The Indian Wars. Look at the dates. This is really heartbreaking. In my opinion, and what I've always taught, we had two groups that didn't do so well in American history. One were African Americans, and the other were Native Americans. And the Native Americans fought us in a number of areas. And the Plains Indian were the last to fight us. And they were nomads. They followed the buffalo. So check this out. When Lewis and Clark went out west, there were estimated 30 million buffalo. By 1876, white hunters got the number down to 85. That's what we did. The trains would pull into a herd, and they shot them for sport and moved on to the next herd. And this went on. And the Native Americans, this is their food supply. So it didn't go so well. And finally, with all of their anger and such, along comes George Armstrong Custer, and he's going to show them what's up. And he brings his soldiers. What he doesn't realize is that Sitting Bull, the medicine man of the Sioux, had sent the word out, and they had guesstimates between 12 and 15,000 Native Americans waiting for him. And it didn't go so well. Watch the screen here. This is the Battle of the Little Bighorn in Montana. One soldier said the land seemed to be growing Indians. They were all over the place.
Give orders to advance.
Now, when the battle's over with, the Native Americans are so outraged at all the bad things that have been going on. Well, there were 1,100 treaties with Native Americans. We broke 950, and they've had it. So Custer, he's going to be the one that's going to pay for all this. They slaughtered 265 soldiers, and then when you go to the battlefield, I was there a couple of years ago, when you go to the battlefield, Native Americans now have the right to put their memorial up, not just the whites. And their memorial says this particular Native American died protecting their way of life. That's how they put it. So what you see here, what you're about to see, are the Native Americans stripping our soldiers of everything that's valuable. And that's the way it went. Custer, Native Americans believed that how you died here on earth, your condition of your body is how you're going there. So he didn't hear. They told him, don't make war on us, you're going to die. He didn't hear. So in one scene, they take sewing awls, sharp things, and he's dead. They're jamming his ears so he hears better.
I brought the letters from my husband.
We recognized him, even though his hair was short and his face dirty.
And so they stood no chance. So by the numbers, they estimate about 100,000, battle deaths about 1,000. Look at when the last veteran fighting the Native Americans died, 1973, which is, to me, remarkable. And he was 101 years old. Manifest destiny. We're getting involved in Mexico. We're going to take some land. Big problem. The Mexicans not too happy that we took Texas, and they're going to claim some land. They want to go up to the Nueces River, and we say, no, you're going to stop at the Rio Grande, and that's how we're going to fight the war. And we get involved. James K. Polk is the president, and he claims that they started it. And there was a young congressman, a one-termer by the name of Abraham Lincoln, who said, now wait a minute, you said they shot us first. Show me the drop of blood. He called it the spot resolution. Show me the spot where they shot us. Well, of course he couldn't. But we get involved in the war. And the war is going to last a couple years. And because of the war, when Mexico decided to give up, they gave up some stuff. California, Nevada, Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, and Wyoming. That's what they gave up in something called the Mexican Cession. And that's what we got. Yeah. So, all the fighting that takes place. And the soldiers that fought in this war became our officers 20 years later in the Civil War. They gained all this experience. So, the last veteran of the Mexican War died in 1929. He was 98 years old. Look at your battle deaths. And now the Civil War. So the main cause, slavery. And it's easy to say slavery, but what it was for the South, it was what they were conditioned to. So you got to keep in mind, the first slaves arrived in the colonies in 1619. We had slavery from 1619 to 1865. If you do the math, it's 246 years. That's 14 generations of people owning people. They got used to it. And now all of a sudden we're coming in and taking it away. And they ain't liking it. So Abraham Lincoln he wasn't stupid. He wasn't going to outlaw slavery. When he was running in 1860, he said, look, you got slaves. You can keep them. I just don't want any new slaves in the new territories coming in. Well, that was enough for the South. So brother against brother, 4 years of conflict. It was brutal. You're looking at somebody when you pulled the trigger. I don't know how you do that. And the bullets were .44 caliber. When they went in, and the bullet, you know, this idea that just getting wounded, one of these bullets hit you, you weren't getting up. So look at how close. And Robert E. Lee was asked by Lincoln to be the head general. Lee wasn't stupid. He looked at all the natural resources we had. He looked at everything we had. He knew it wasn't going to happen. It's not going to happen. But yet, he told Lincoln, I can't go against my own friends in Virginia. Can't do it. So he led the South. All right, what you're about to see is day 3 at Gettysburg. Day 1, the Confederates charged our guys. Our guys went running. The Union went running through the streets of Gettysburg, outside the town, and they formed. You been to Gettysburg? Raise your hand. Mm-hmm. The fishhook? Yes, you know. Mm-hmm. They formed that line, and that was day 1. Day 2, the Confederates did all the attacking. They were going to attack at this end and this end, and it didn't work. So now it's day 3. They're going dead center. They're going right down the center. They had 15,000 of the crack troops left. The best troops the Confederates had. They're going right down the center. And, okay, our guys hid behind a wall, all loaded, ready to go, and they were told don't fire any shots until they come into range. So the Confederates are going to march a little over a mile, no trees, no rocks, no nothing. And they're coming across the field, all spread out, and they get within range. And by the time the smoke clears, about 20 minutes into it, 7,500 Confederates are dead. It was the biggest mass slaughter on this continent. And the rest of them went back, and on July 4th, Lee ordered his troops down south. And for all intents and purposes, the Civil War was over with. This is what it looked like when they went dead center. Notice the lack of cover.
Virginians! Virginians! With me! Who will come with me?
Horrible. Now, they're still finding skeletal remains today. It's 2025, so you have to remember the battlefield's about the size of my school district, Pembroke. And a guy dies, falls in a gully, it rains, the rains come down and put rocks on top of him and this and that, and stays there for 160 years. And then more rains come, remove the rocks, and skeletal remains are found. Now, when I started teaching in 1970, our textbook said they didn't know exactly. About 500,000, 500,000 died. Not even close. Now, the latest, is 750,000, and they say, don't even quote that, they think it's going to go up to 1 million. How do you know that your kid died? How'd you know your kid died? They didn't come back. Where did he die? Don't know. And that's it. That's the way it goes. Today, our soldiers have DNA on them, their own DNA. There's never going to be, I do a program on Arlington Cemetery, there's never going to be another unknown. It just isn't going to work nowadays, which is a good thing. Lincoln, he had everything going for him except generals. We had the worst generals ever, and not good. You know one of the generals, General Hooker. Now, General Hooker wanted to keep his troops' spirits high. You know where I'm going with this? And so he had ladies of the evening follow his troops to keep them happy. And so they got to calling themselves, come on, Parma. Hookers. And there's the dead, picking up the dead. By the way, if you ever visited Arlington and you see the caissons carrying a coffin, it comes from the Civil War. They used to bring guns by a gun carriage to the troops, pick up the dead, put them in the carriage, and bring them back for burial. And hence, that's what we do now as a sign of respect. So check this out. They estimate about 2.2 million Northerners, 1.05 Southerners, battle deaths. So again, these numbers are skewed. I don't know what to tell you. And I was alive when the last two soldiers that fired a gun were still alive. I guess I'm old and proud of it, I guess. But look at this, 1956 and 1951. Look at how old they were, 109 and 104. Now check this out, and I would like an answer to this, so I'm going to ask you a question. The last Civil War widow died. All right, you know what a definition of a widow is. She was married to a soldier that pulled the trigger.
1965.
2020.
Oh my gosh.
She was young.
That can't be. Do the math, it can't be.
Yes, it is, because,
She was 101.
yeah, because she was like 17 when he married her.
She was 17, he was 93.
Right, yeah.
Now wait a minute. How old are you?
20?
You gonna marry a 93-year-old guy?
No.
No, wait a minute. It's 1936. It's 1936. You're gonna marry, well, I have no sense in asking you. Why'd she do it?
Money.
It's 1936. He's got a Civil War pension. What's going on in 1936? Great Depression, of course. Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. Helping the oppressed, Spanish-American War, Teddy Roosevelt. Here's the USS Maine. McKinley sent the Maine to Havana Harbor to stop the Spaniards from being nasty to the Cubans. And the ship blows up. It kills 261 United States sailors. And these would be some of the ones that died. And so we fought the war. We were in pretty good shape. We defeated, check this out, we defeated the Spanish Navy, honest to God, in 3 hours. It would have been shorter, but we took a breakfast break. Yeah. And then we defeated them on land in 10 weeks in Cuba. Teddy Roosevelt gets the Medal of Honor for doing that. And so the Spanish-American War vets. Now, I'm old enough. My father used to take me to the parade, St. Patrick's Day parade in Buffalo. And I remember the Spanish-American War vets marching in it when I was a little kid in the 50s. So then when I put this program together, I discovered something. Here's Teddy. See him?
Oh, you're there.
No horses.
Actual, now I don't know about you, for the vets, just out of curiosity, I got something for you, but how many vets? How many vets? Okay. All right. Look at the picture. Look at the helmets, veterans. You good with that? Those are cloth hats. Now, I don't know what's going on in 1898, but I'm not sure I want to go into battle with a cloth hat on. I mean, that's the way it's going. And total servicemen, about 300,000. Look at the last veteran, 1992, and he was 106 years old. And now the world at war. World War I. The war to end all wars. Guess what? They didn't know what was coming. We were isolationists. We didn't want to get involved in any of the wars. Then the Germans sunk the Lusitania. It didn't bring us into the war right away, 1915. We had to wait a couple more years. We got involved in September 1917. Alvin York becomes the most decorated soldier during this time period. We shipped 2 million men over to France to fight. With the battle cry, Lafayette, we are here. Meaning Lafayette brought the French to help us in the Revolutionary War. As a matter of fact, that's how we won the war, was with the French. So, World War I, 1917 and 18. We were in it a little over a year. And it was in the trenches. And when the war was ending, I'd say to the 8th graders, okay, they're going to end this war. How are they going to do it? So hang on, I'm going to tell you what they told me. All right, watch the screen. What you're about to see, we come up with horrible ways of killing each other in wars. This year, we have a budget of $6 trillion. Now, I know we have to be militarily strong, but they're coming up with ways. And we did this. The first modern war was World War I, and we had gas. Phosgene gas and mustard gas. You breathe it in, it ate your lung. Horrible way to die. Watch the screen. This is from All Quiet on the Western Front. You're looking at the German position, but they suffered like we did. Watch a gas attack.
Gas. The most feared, the most obscene weapon of all. We remember the awful sights in the hospital. The gas patients who, suffocating, cough up their burnt lungs in clots. Better to take your chances in the open rather than stay in the hollows and low places where the vapors settle.
And there's the gas. Just as an aside, our guys had gas masks, and the filter, check this out, was ground up peach pits.
Harvested here. They were harvested here. They were collected around this area.
Ernest Borgnine, for those of you watching the screen. And our 20-some-year-old young lady here said, who's that?
The new recruits give us more trouble than they are worth. Between 5 and 10 of them get killed to every old hand. And they get killed simply because they are so inexperienced. They know nothing, so they die like flies.
Now the officer's going to put a shell in a gun. He's going to take care of business because this guy's going to die a horrible death. And then he gets stopped. Hand me your rifle, he says. And then in the trenches, and you have something called going over the top, climbing over the top, and you charge the other guy's trench. It was suicide. Watch the screen. French that are attacking. And brutal. Look at our guys. Again, look at the helmets. I hope you're not shot from the ear down because you got troubles. Today, what are our helmets made out of? They're not made out of steel.
Kevlar.
Kevlar. I got a canoe made out of Kevlar. No problem hitting a rock or any of that other stuff.
And hemp.
Be a Marine. All right. Total amount, 4,000,007. Battle deaths were 53,000. And the last veteran died in 2011, Frank Buckles. He was 110 years old, and we did nothing. He was buried at Arlington. No big deal. The last World War I vet in Germany died. They did nothing. England, nothing. France, nothing. I don't know why. And today there is this horrible World War I monument overgrown by shrubs. It's embarrassing. So I've heard they're going to try and do something. We'll see. And I know they won't because there's no vets left to scream about it. That's how it goes. So now the fight against tyranny, 1941 to 45. This is the stories I grew up on. I was born in 48. So at Thanksgiving, you know, all my cousins and I, we'd say to our uncles, come on, give us some more war stories. And they'd sit down and tell us some war stories. So it all starts, we were isolationist. Again, we don't want to get involved in Europe's affairs. And FDR is going, come on, to Congress. We gotta help out everybody. No, 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 not our fight. Yeah, well, it becomes our fight. What am I about to show you? It becomes our fight. Pearl Harbor. Yes. By the time the day is over with, 2,341 of our military personnel were killed, including nurses. And we got to do something about that. So we declared war on December 8th. Help me with this. Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. That's why I like speaking to adult Bruce. My 8th graders are looking at me like, I don't know what you just said. Okay, so now we're going to fight. Oh, who's this? Sullivan brothers. All five.
Yep.
Sunk on the Juno, the USS Juno. And then we said, no brothers can serve again together. And now that order is rescinded. Brothers can serve on the same ships. Who's this? George Bush, Sr., the youngest pilot in World War II. He's 19. Aircraft carriers, our ammunition's better. And then we got to do something. We got to take back Europe. And Eisenhower was in charge. We're going to land in Normandy on D-Day. What does the D stand for? Nothing. They're not going to tell you when. And they're going to land on D-Day H hour. What time? I don't know. H hour. And that's the best you're going to get. So our troops are going to land. The worst of all the beaches is Omaha Beach. And we're going to lose about 425 soldiers per hour in the 7 hours that it took us to take the beach. Watch the screen. There's 1,700 still missing. How can that be? Well, they got off the boats in 20 feet of water and the current swept them away. We're missing 1,700. Their names are on the monuments. No burial.
It was a machine gun mess.
They had a zipper gun. The zipper gun, check this out, fired, the Germans, fired 125 bullets per second. That's what was happening here that you saw. Horrible. So as time went on, we're doing the best we can fighting. The American public wanted us to go after Japan in revenge, and Churchill talked FDR into going after Hitler. He said, look, you're going to lose us. England, we're the last stronghold. You got to get rid of Hitler first, and that's what we did. We did some fighting in the Pacific, but we went full bore after Hitler shot himself. And MacArthur said, the soldier above all other prays for peace, for it is the soldier who must suffer and bear the deepest wounds and scars of war. Every soldier must know, before he goes into battle, how the little battle he is to fight fits into the larger picture, and how the success of his fighting will influence the battle as a whole. And that's exactly right on. You might think to yourself, what, I got to take this little stupid hill? Yeah, it's important. And then Iwo Jima. They killed us on the beaches in Normandy. Now, in Iwo Jima in 1945, Kiribayashi was the Japanese commander. He ain't going to play that game. He's going to draw us in at least a football field's length and then go after us. They knew we were coming. They dug in. Some of the foxholes they dug, check this out, 60 feet deep with tunnels and all kinds of stuff. They were waiting. And when our guys got there, you could be looking at the barrel of a machine gun and not see it. It was that hidden. Watch the screen. Iwo Jima. That's Kiribayashi. They had 29,000 troops. We had 70,000 troops. But they were hidden. And then, they're in caves. Now he gives the order to fire. Look at our poor guys. They're walking right into a machine gun nest. And then it comes down to 1945. FDR's dead. Truman asked the question, we got to get this over with. We got to get rid of Japan. How many U.S. lives will it take to invade Japan? The answer, 1 million casualties. Not in Truman's watch. He says, tell me about that bomb we're building. So they tell him, and he says, okay, all they're waiting for is for him to give the go-ahead. And he picks up the phone on August 6th and says, drop it. Now, people have argued, was that the humane thing to do? Well, let me resurrect my uncles and we'll all sit down and you can ask them that question. Because the answer was real easy. They ain't going to surrender. Now, we dropped leaflets. There's going to, like you've never seen before, is going to be horror. Don't do this. And they refused. Okay. What's the name of the plane? The Enola Gay, which is at the second Smithsonian. There's a new Smithsonian building in central Virginia. It's called the Udvar Hazy Museum. Udvar Hazy was an immigrant to this country, loves this country so much, and he made a lot of money. He donated $166 million for the building of this, air museum, and the Enola Gay is there. So when I was with my grandson, and I'm walking around the corner, there it is. And my grandson's looking at my face. He's going, what's up? I'm going, you don't understand. All right.
Sir, I'm sorry, where did you say it was?
In Central Virginia.
Central.
All right. Watch the screen. The bomb is called Little Boy. It's just shy of 10,000 pounds. When all is said and done, in 24 hours, 180,000 killed. Here it is. People vaporized, which means you were there 1 second and not the other. Here's the crew. Bomb bay doors are open. Bombs away. Now, are civilians going to die? You bet. There's nothing we can do about it. It was a military establishment, and that's it.
It took about 45 seconds from the time the bomb left the airplane until it exploded. And I think there wasn't a man in the airplane that wasn't either timing it with his watch or counting or doing something. I was sure the bomb wasn't done. I was sure it wasn't going to work.
After falling for 43 seconds, the time and barometric triggers started the firing mechanism. A uranium bullet fired down a barrel into a uranium target. Together, they started a nuclear chain reaction. Solid matter began to come apart, releasing untold quantities of energy.
People were there 1 minute and not the next. Shadows were burned into cement. The bombardier in his journal wrote, "My God." And it took, by the time it's finished, it's going to take another bomb. They wouldn't listen. We said, we got another one. And this one was on what city? Nagasaki. What was the name of the plane?
Boxcar.
The boxcar. Who knows that? Hey, you guys are pretty good. And the boxcar is at, it's in Dayton, Ohio, at the Air Force Museum. It's pretty cool. So by the numbers, 16 million. When you go to the World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C., they have the Wall of Heroes. They have stars representing the number of soldiers killed, gold stars. And it's pretty cool. Look at the battle deaths. So we're going to lose 405,000 soldiers. And there's approximately 12,500 alive today. We're losing them right now at the rate of 131 a day, but that shouldn't be shocking. Why? Yeah, you're not even in your 90s. Yeah, that's how it goes. My dad, they all did this, and they all died from it. And my dad died at 76. And my last uncle lived to be 92. And very proud of all of them. Now the Forgotten War, Korea, 1950 to 53. The North invaded the South, and we had a treaty. It made no difference. And we fight this war. Look at the pictures. The only thing that makes battle psychologically tolerable is the brotherhood among soldiers. You need each other to get by. MacArthur. And North Korea will not return our deceased soldiers. That's it. We've got hundreds that haven't been returned, and they're not going to do it. It just gets worse with that idiot with the short haircut that's in charge over there. Poignant picture, especially for young kids. And 1.7 million in 3 years. Battle deaths were 33,000. So in 2020, about 1 million left, and they're aging. Containment, Vietnam. We want to contain communism. Sounded good, didn't work out so well. So the Vietnam War went 12 years. It was our longest war. And then Afghanistan came along. So in the Vietnam War, pretty tough. In the jungle. All right, a CBS News crew was allowed to go in with a group into the jungle. You didn't know where the bad guys were. They could see us, we couldn't see them. And they dropped them by helicopter. They're going in a patrol, and here's what happened. Watch the screen.
It's dawn, and Alpha Troop 19 is commuting to war, scared from the moment he gets out of the chopper to the moment
He's the medic.
Scared that
Duvalier.
is going to get killed picking up a wounded buddy. Jorgensen just became a sergeant, but he doesn't like it. He'd rather be up walking point.
Now look where they're walking.
He's already got 3.
They can't see anybody, but the North Vietnamese can see them.
Everybody calls him Blue. That's his rated last man in an unguarded moment. Today, though, it's quiet. A few bunkers uncovered, then a quick lunch, and back down the trail to the pickup zone. Just a peaceful walk in the sun.
And now they start. And our guys get wounded. The medic has to go treat the wounded.
up there on the trail. I got hit in both legs.
Let's go. 4-3.
I usually keep my programs at an hour. I'm over that, I'm sorry, but I gotta keep going. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. So we took an adult group to Washington, and you won't believe this. I get on the bus, we got about 40 people, some I don't know from the Pembroke area, and I said to one lady who was in her 80s, this had to be 20 years ago, I said, hi, and you're all set to go to Washington? Oh no. I'm thinking, honey, I don't know how to tell you this, but this bus is going to Washington. And she said, all I want to see is Arlington. I said, well, I'm just going to guess that you lost a son. Yes, I did. I have to put my hand on his name. Got it. So we stopped the bus and, we did our thing the first day. Second day is Arlington. She's shaking like a leaf. So we pull in, and her daughter and son-in-law are with her, and they help her. And I'm kind of in back. I don't know what to expect. And we get to the wall, and I looked up what panel the kid's name was on, and she sees it. And it was tough. She went down to her knees and crying and weeping, and I understand. And she's touching it and all this and that. And they're a good half hour, and then it was time to go. So we're leaving. And there's a guy with a card table sitting with a chair, and he's got a stack of books. He calls me over. He says, just guessing she lost a son. I said, yeah. He said, I wrote a book about my time in Vietnam and the action that I was in. I'd like to give her a copy. Could you bring her over? I said, sure. So I bring her over, and he says, and you are? And she tells him. And he says, and what was your son's name? And she tells him. He drops his pen. He turns white. It was in his outfit. He saw him get killed. Explain that.
What are the chances?
On that day, at that hour. I don't know what to say. It was pretty tough.
Stuff happens.
And a lot of our guys today are suffering from PTSD. My best friend Orvie, that was the nickname I gave him. We went to the prom together with our dates, and smuggled beer when we were kids and did all the stuff that you did in the 60s. And he came home from the war, and I lost track. He lived in my town, but I never really saw him. And then he came to a party at my house, and in the span of an hour, he had 6 beers. Then he's going golfing with my other friend, and he says, hey, what's going on with Orv? I said, what are you talking about? It was 9 o'clock in the morning, and he's drinking beer. And then, 3 Christmases ago, he's sitting with his sister, leans back in the chair, and exhaled. Massive heart attack, adios. And he's a casualty of the war. He had PTSD. That's how he got through. No judgment. What do you think? 12 years old? Look at him.
Yeah.
So now in Vietnam, about 3 million of our guys. Battle deaths, if you walk the Vietnam Wall, it's 58,000 plus. And wounded, there you go, PTSD, check it out. And so living veterans today, a little over 6 million. And then terrorism, Operation Desert Storm, Desert Shield, the 1990s. Anybody who's this? Schwarzkopf, yeah. Notice the uniforms. The valor and courage of our young women and men in the armed forces are a shining example to all the world, and we owe them and their families our deepest respect. By the way, we have females in battle, in combat. Yep. One of them's a senator, Duckworth. And about 500,000 living veterans, 1.6 million. The global war on terrorism, we've got Operation Enduring Freedom, Operation Iraqi Freedom, Afghanistan, Libya. Wow, we got a lot. I want to play this for you, but I prepped it before I came here, and I can't. There's a few swear words, and I'm choosing not to do that. Speaking of females, and I just got off the phone. No, that's not true. I got lost coming here. Let's start with that. I didn't know where I was. West Virginia looked about it. But I'm in the parking lot at 4:30 this afternoon because I got to make sure I'm here in daylight. I had to see where I was. And I called a young lady because she was supposed to be on Flight 93 during 9/11 and missed her flight. And I wanted to get her story, and we were chatting. I taught her. And I said, so what's going on with you? She said, oh, I made full colonel. Oh, I guess that's a big deal. So here she is in our armed forces. Pretty good. Honoring the sacrifices many have made for our country in the name of freedom and democracy is the very foundation of Veterans Day. And I agree, that's why we're here tonight. Global war on terror. Female soldiers, check this out, 15, KIA. What's KIA? Killed in action. Yeah. The willingness. Now, this is George Washington. God, he was smart. Look at what he wrote. The willingness with which our young people are likely to serve in any wars, no matter how justified, shall be directly proportional to how they perceive the veterans of earlier wars were treated and appreciated by their nation. Say something. True? Yeah, and he wrote this in the 1700s. Not every, okay, now this is David Bellavia. My grandson and I have been volunteering our time. If you're interested, you can come to Pembroke December 13th. It's wreaths across America. Wreaths will be there. All they need are volunteers to put them on the over 2,000 tombstones. Just show up at the cemetery if you want. And we've been doing that. Now, David Bellavia gave an address there a couple months before. And he said something that was just perfect. So he said this. Not everyone here lost their life in combat defending this country. But every single person that will be buried here in the future and presently was willing to give their life for our country. There's nothing more sacred than that. You don't know when you join what's going to happen, but you're willing to die for your country, and that's why we appreciate you tonight. So I have two things to end. I have a present for you, veterans, and then I've got something special. So watch the screen.
If tomorrow things were gone, I'd work for all my life.
This will be sung by all the soldiers. Watch.
Just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars.
that. I've been using at the fire hall. We used to have gun raffles. They don't do that anymore. And so some of our guys work in cemeteries, some of our firemen. And one guy especially, when flags get tattered, he gives them to me if they're embossed with stars. And the flags have flown over the veterans section of the cemeteries. So what I did for you, veterans, is I got something for you to keep. Here's a star from those flags and a little message from me. So you can stick this in your pocket and always remember that you're a vet and we appreciate everything you did. So if you raise your hand, I'll give you one.
The Big H Podcast, tune in now. Conversations that'll wow. Laugh and learn, stay a while. Let's explore that Hilton style. From the highs to the lows, every story just explodes. Mike's got questions on the go, diving deep from head to toe. Every week the guests align, sharing moments so divine. Stay with us, the pace is fine. Every episode you'll find. The Big H Podcast, tune in now. Conversations that'll wow. Laugh and learn, stay a while. Let's explore that Hilton style.
All of them great.